Good
Morning, sir.
morning. This is
Good
Sree Iyer
morning.
from PGurus and welcome to the daily updates with Sridhar. Sridhar Chityala ji, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram and good morning, and very happy to be here again.
We have several interesting topics for you to talk about today. One of them being the ongoing 2x2 summit that's going on in India. Dr. Mike Esper and Mike Pompeo, Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State respectively, are visiting India. It is
Sorry,
expected
sorry
that they
about
are
that.
going to sign some significant agreements, such as the BECA. And India is also in the process of buying a lot of equipment from the American companies in terms of ammunition and drones and other technology. So there's a feeling of anticipation that no matter who comes to power in January next year, that these agreements will be already in place and that Quad is going to keep moving forward. Sridhar ji, what are your thoughts on the ongoing 2x2 meeting? Do you think real progress is being made?
Well, I think that first and foremost, I think one of the great reforms and transformative programs under Trump, Modi, Abe coalition is the establishment of Quad. This 2+2 dialogue, I think, is a masterstroke that was constructed between India and the United States. Now, to your point, which is, are we doing well? We are doing exceptionally well. You can see on three specific fronts, the 2+2 dialogue has now provided the security platform, which covers from Pacific to South China Sea to Indian Ocean, and it's now touching even the northern borders of India and integrated into the One Tibet policy. So therefore, I think it's exceptional in terms of what it has accomplished thus far. It has also established the trade. For the first time, India is importing close to 40 million barrels of crude, which has put the trade equation with United States, bilateral trade equation, in excess of $150 billion. Nobody is able to kind of fathom this huge volume that has come in. And it's also, United States is also the strategic security within the context of the energy policy of India. So to answer your question with all these kinds of details, is it is working very effectively. The fact that they're meeting, just in the last week prior to elections and signing the BECA agreement, but also Mike Pompeo's statement that the unusual buildup of the Chinese does not augur well and United States will be supporting India is another telling endorsement. United States has also worked very closely with India as part of the Quad in terms of normalizing stuff on a security matters with Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Maldives as part of this integrated effort that is going on. So this 2+2, Mike Pompeo and Mark Iyer being in India, having dialogue with the Prime Minister, having dialogue with the Foreign Secretary, having dialogue with the Defense Minister in India, is a reflection, and then following on shows how important they place to the platform called Quad and the agenda of the platform.
Sir, while we are on the topic of United States politics, we are days away from an election and the race seems to have tightened. What are your thoughts on the Rasmussen poll that puts Trump slightly ahead of Biden today?
Well, I think it's all boils down to samples, the samples that you pick up. And nobody kind of qualifies the sample. So Rasmussen poll is probably reflective of the sample that's picked up in the battleground states. And there's clearly an indication that the battleground states seem to point towards a positive momentum shift towards Trump, especially after the last debate and his continued and sustained efforts. There has been some policy issues and blunders like fracking and taxes and minimum wages and Paris Accord, etc. Some of these things resonate, especially the fracking will resonate in the markets of Texas, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. So probably some of the sentiments that is seen in the polls is a reflection of that.
Now, China is coming out with a 5-year strategy, and that seems very interesting. What do you make of this strategy? And they've already, I think, exposed their hand. They've been rattling all their neighbors. Whether it is saber rattling or something more serious, we'll have to wait and see. What are your thoughts on this 5 year strategy, sir?
The 5 year strategy is the ongoing thing which they have, has been going for, years. But the most important outcomes that is coming out of the current 5 year strategy is a reflection of China's thinking under Xi Jinping and the direction they're taking. So they have laid emphasis on three important aspects. First, they believe that they are now under security threat, and it is the single focus of the Western nations and the neighbors. So therefore, security is the number one parameter. Number two, a number of their technology companies are slowly saying being targeted and banned. Most recent one being the 5G technology from Huawei, as well as the world developing an alternative platform. Number of their applications have been banned. That's the second. So they feel they must take charge and build their own technology, and which will be its core competency as it drives the agenda. The third important facet, which is a big shift, is to reliance on exports to domestic consumption. So therefore, they are beginning to accept, in case the world imposes ban, targets, restricts the exports, then how do they keep the economy growing and people being empowered and people per capita growing? Is to build a very strong domestic economy. This is what West had been saying all along, but necessity seems to have driven them towards that. So three important facets is very much reflected in some of the outcomes and actions that we see on ground.
Now, the one of the biggest technological groups in China, the Ant Financial Group, is planning to go public, and this has got companies like Alibaba. I have an interesting observation to make. Alibaba used to be owned by Jack Ma, not so anymore. Looks like the assets of the whole company has been transferred to the Chinese Communist Party, and people are even saying that Jack Ma may not be there anymore. So it's a very intriguing fact. Is he still alive? I'm just sorry to ask you a blunt question. Is Jack Ma still around, or has he been sidelined? And is this company going to be really listing well? I have no idea. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, first, I think there's a lot of questions there, right? So I think that any large corporation becoming part of the Chinese Communist Party asset is the norm of the game, not, and you don't see any exceptions to that rule. So therefore, the largest company is part of the CCP. I've also, I stand to be corrected that I think Jack Ma is now formally a member of the Communist Party. I think he was received and given the membership. Whether he has chosen, I don't know, but that's number two. I think the third around, easy around, is very much around, and he's the advocate, which is making his speeches about his company and investments, and about China as a whole. So he's very much making his rounds. He clearly is not in the matters that pertain to the Ant Group. So becomes an investor. He's one of the investors, and if there's a new management which is sitting and running the ship. And financial IPO is one of the most successful IPOs. Its market valuation, market cap, now exceeds some of the big companies in the United States like Wells Fargo and so on. So it was a very successful IPO. Just yesterday, it was announced and launched. So it's called running the book. So they take orders, pre-orders, and then they close the book. In Hong Kong, institutional book is closed, which means there's plenty of demand. And the way they launched the program is very interesting because they split equally the shares between Shanghai listing and Hong Kong listing, leaving the door open for things to normalize. Because remember, there's a ban now imposed by President Trump on Hong Kong. So the story is that they expect things to be normalized. So they have listed equally between the two markets. So which is an interesting sentiment. So again, that is part of the China's 5-year technology, market participation. I mean, pretty much it's one of the largest financial fintech in the world. It runs payments, it runs banking, it runs mobile payments, it runs a money market fund. It also has limited kind of credit transactions. So therefore, it's almost like the next generation. It connects a number of banks' products into the platform. So it's not a product manufacturer, but it's it probably one third of Chinese market uses the Ant, at least the Alipay payment processing platform.
I just want to touch back upon United States. Amy Barrett has been confirmed as a Supreme Court judge, and with that, the Supreme Court bench now has a very conservative bent. And this is not unusual. Many court systems have this kinds of bents, except that in countries like India, it is not out in the open. In the United States, it's out in the open. They know the biases of the judges, and it's good to know where they stand in terms of issues. What do you make of it, especially in light of some of the mailed in ballots in Pennsylvania and one other state where it could be going either way, where Amy Barrett might be required to weigh in? Do you think that could make a difference for Trump's re-election?
Well, first, congratulations to Amy Barrett. Congratulations to the Republican Party. They focused. They ran a 40-day successive marathon, and they ensured that Amy Barrett is confirmed, notwithstanding it's not bipartisan, it's partisan. Most of the decisions are partisan of this nature. For example, Affordable Care Act was one of the most partisan, both House and Republican. So very much similar. There's 2 or 3 Republicans abstained, but otherwise it's a kind of a good number for Republican. One of the important elements of presidency is about this judicial appointments, right? So they wait and they seize the opportunities to see that the sentiments of the government in power is reflected in the Supreme Court. It's, as you rightly said, it's open, it's transparent, it's very well known. It goes through the rigors of a process, so everybody gets to know the person. It's not secretive, something that happens. And I think I forget the name, Dianne Feinstein, who made a statement that she found she was one of the best run programs, notwithstanding the differences that existed between Republican and Democratic Party. And she lauded Lindsey Graham for that, who is the Judiciary Committee chairman. Now, in terms of the specific question that pertains to voter ballots and registration, all these decisions do play a part, and the opinions as interpreted matters. So therefore, to some extent, these appointments do play a role in objectively play a part, if you have to use the word. My Democratic friends would say objective. There's no objective. It is very much biased and opinion based. It's fine, but that's how the structure works. But other important point to point out is that in his tenure, Trump has appointed close to 6 judges, which is quite remarkable by a number of people who have made it to the Supreme Court. So I think it's people are generally the Republican side is generally happy. Yes, your point on the Pennsylvania, Michigan. I think there's already a Michigan ruling which the Supreme Court has overruled in terms of the deadline. So therefore, yes, that the most important decision is yet to come. In the event of a contested outcome, where you need to recount, where you need to go back and repoll, any of these issues, these judges are going to play a significant role.
And might I remind our viewers that people are still talking about the 2000 Supreme Court decision that threw the election in favor of George Bush. And I'll leave it at that. The last thing that we need to look at, we're running a little bit behind, but let's take a quick look at the markets for today, and then we can wrap it up.
Well, I think the markets was very much reflective of the sentiments yesterday. We were down 650 points, driven by the known factor that the stimulus is not going to occur before November 3rd. So there was a pullback of close to 2% from the market. That's reflecting the day's sentiments. But having said that, today it is back around 0.6%. Dow is back, and then S&P is around somewhere 0.3 or 0.4%, 0.3% up. When I last looked at it, it just, sentiments, drive markets. And yesterday's sentiments was, hey, we expect a stimulus didn't come, so you kind of people dumped and took some profits. But it's also a reflection of the other adjacent factor. There is rising coronavirus situation that's developing. And yesterday's market corrections or market factors were driven by what happened over the weekend, especially in United States, where we saw 83,000 cases over 2 days, average about 43, 44,000. So the story, 83,000 cases is a fairly significant kind of a number. But you also have White House making a statement, which is to say, look, guys, this is going to be way of life because cause and cure are unknown, and we'll have to deal with it as things go. So, and that's reflected in the market. So I expect things to, stabilize this week, and, unless we have more bad news on the pandemic side. There's nothing in the fundamentals, and there's nothing in the underlying financial ecosystem that says that there is something that has to have a financial. By the way, the market is expected to be, the economy is expected to be growing around 3.6% next year. That's reflection of the imminent stimulus, be it Democrats or Republicans at power in White House.
Thank you very much, sir. And that brings an end to today's daily update with Sridhar. And do subscribe to our channel and also donate to our channel. Thank you very much and see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.